The Naked Prey is a 1965 American adventure film based on a survival story. This story is about a man who gets trapped and hunted in the jungle of South Africa. The tribes of the jungle want him dead, and if he wants to save his life, he has to get out of the jungle, which is not so easy. This is the story of the early 19th century, when Aborigines lived in large parts of South Africa. These sides of the earth were still left undiscovered by most other parts of the world. Not many people dared to travel the deadly trails of Africa, and those who rarely did so included people from other parts of the world, came here to hunt for ivory, buy people for slavery, and use the resources for their advantage. Near the jungle we are shown a small white-colored fort. A large number of tribal people come out of the fort and are led by some Americans. The tribal people in this safari were hired to carry the heavy luggage and assist in their hunting. The guide to this safari is a frequent traveler of Africa and knows his way around the jungle and its trails. The organizer or the man who paid for this safari is an American, who for the purpose of this video will be named William. William is a greedy and arrogant person who is here in Africa to hunt elephants for their precious tusks, which are later converted to ivory and sold for thousands of dollars. After long hours of travel, they decide to take a rest for a while. William tells the guide that he's thinking of maybe getting into the slavery business. He further adds that there's a lot of profit in it and asks the guide if he would like to become his partner. The guide straight away refuses by saying that he no longer wants to work and that this is going to be his last guide job, after which he intends to open a farm of his own. The guide calls an end to the rest and all of them proceed forward. After walking for a few more hours, they're met by tribals from another village. William wants to take hold of his gun, but the guide ensures there's nothing to worry about. Being a safari guide, the guide has come to learn a few of the dialects and can speak fluently with these tribals. These tribals look quite peaceful and have smiles on their faces as they speak to the guide. After a few back and forths in a language which I don't understand, the guide tells William that these tribals want gifts for their chief, and they'll let them pass without any conflict. The guide explains it's customary and they should respect the tribes, but William has another idea. He protests that he can't give money to every beggar who comes his way. The guide tries to make him understand that they're in the territory of the tribes and they should be more careful. But William is adamant. He pushes the poor tribe leader and commands the safari to move on ahead. The tribal leader obviously feels disrespected by what just happened and he's not going to let it slide. The safari later hunts down the elephants, and I can't show that in the video, as I believe the animals were really harmed, or at least the movie makers used real hunting footage. There's a scene where they literally show an elephant getting cut. Moving on, William is really happy with the safari and expects to earn a lot from the tusks which he has gathered from dead elephants. But the guide senses something is wrong. The tribe leader, who was embarrassed a little earlier, has brought back up and is hiding behind the bushes looking for the perfect time to attack. He signals his people to attack and the safari gang are showered with spears and arrows. The guide and William take out their guns and start shooting. But the attacking tribes are in a larger number, so it gets hard for them to take control even with the guns. The angry tribe attack and kill most of the safari members. They don't even spare the lives of fellow Africans and take William and others captive. The captives are taken to the village, where they'll be sentenced by the tribe chief, who has a surprisingly big belly. I thought the chief would be someone in good shape, but I guess there are perks to being chief in a tribal group. Anyway, the chief gives the verdict that the captives are to be killed, but in different ways. One of them gets killed with a strong hit on the head, another gets killed with a knife of some sort. Now it's turn for the Americans, and this time the tribe chief gets creative. One of the American helpers gets chased by the tribe's women and gets killed with her spears. I'm not showing this scene because the tribe women aren't wearing tops. The other helper gets roasted alive, which I believe is also too much to show on YouTube, so watch the movie if you really want to see that scene. Now it's William's turn. He gets tied to the ground and is forced to compete in a staring contest with a poisonous snake. When it looks like the snake is going to lose, it cheats and beats William, who blinks and then dies. Now, did he deserve to die for pushing the tribe leader? I don't think so. But he was thinking about taking slaves to America, so I guess he did deserve to die for that. Okay, now it's time for the guide's turn, who I think should be given a name. Let's call him Wild, based on the actor's real name, Cornel Wilde. Given how Wild was actually trying to warn William and was respecting the tribe leader, the chief decides to go easy on him. They strip him of his clothes and take him elsewhere. The tribe members shoot their arrows one by one. Wild gets told that he'll get a head start to the point where each tribe member has shot their arrows. One thing I found hard to understand is that Wild actually knows their language, but he makes no effort whatsoever at talking them into sparing his life. Anyway, Wild starts running, and after a while, he passes his first arrow. The hunter who shot that arrow begins his pursuit of hunting Wild. Soon, Wild crosses another arrow, and the second hunter runs forward in charge. The first hunter has managed to catch up to Wild in striking distance. He throws his spear, which luckily misses Wild, who then picks up the spear and kills the first hunter. Wild now has a weapon, some clothes, and slippers, which will be important given that he has to run a lot. Meanwhile, the second and third hunters have seen their friend getting killed, and let me tell you, they look pissed. The second hunter gets to the crime scene and starts crying out loud. The third hunter arrives a little later, and they both realize maybe giving the white guy a head start was a bad idea. While the second hunter takes his fallen friend back to the village, the third hunter runs to catch up to Wild. After running for so long, they both get exhausted, and surprisingly, it's the third hunter who gives up and falls to the ground. Shame on you, man. The first hunter would be so disappointed in you. Moving on, Wild finally gets some time to catch his breath and change into some tribal clothing, but he better hurry as the fourth hunter is on his way. After running in scorching heat for what must have been an hour or so, Wild is exhausted. Luckily, he has a water flask which he got from the first hunter. He goes on ahead, but after a while, it gets unbearable and he decides to take some much-needed rest. The tribe slipper was hard to run on, so Wild fixes it with some animal clothing to make it more comfortable. The fourth hunter, on the other hand, seems intelligent as he's keeping track of Wild's footprints and following them. Wild sees that the hunter is about to reach him. The hunter follows Wild's footsteps and notices his slipper behind a tree. But it was a trap laid by Wild, who sneaks up behind the fourth hunter and kills him. Now it seems that the tribal people have smartened up, as they're all chasing Wild in a group instead of giving him any more head starts. All this running around and chasing has made them all hungry. While Wild runs wild trying to hunt down a wild turkey, try saying that 5 times fast, the tribe hunters are setting their sight on a deer. At night, Wild realizes that he must be careful of wild animals, alongside the hunters that are after him. Meanwhile, the hunters have found the dead body of the fourth hunter and are singing desperately, maybe mourning the death of their friends. If anyone knows what they're singing about, please let me know down in the comments section. Back to the story. The sun has risen and Wild gets woken up by a lizard walking on his face. He realizes, oh no, that wasn't a dream at all, I need to get going. The hunters, on the other hand, are debating on which way they should go as they're confused with Wild's footprints. Finally, one of the hunters wises up and suggests that they split the group up and head in both directions. Next, we see that Wild is eyeing a deer to hunt. He throws his spear and manages to kill it, but when he moves forward, he sees that his prey has been caught by a lion. Wild makes the wise decision and backs up while the lion is happy to get a free meal. On his way forward, he sees a river ahead of him. He rushes there to drink some water, but just when he's about to drink it, he hears the sounds of the hunters who are fast approaching him. He immediately runs towards the jungle and comes across another river which he can't cross as it's filled with alligators. So he goes back to the jungle. Meanwhile, the hunters reach the river and see Wild's footprints, which directs them into the jungle. They yet again split up and start looking for Wild separately. Waiting for a perfect moment, Wild jumps off of a tree and kills one of the hunters. As he moves forward, a hunter attacks him with a spear which almost kills him. Wild engages in a close-range knife fight with the hunter, and after gaining perfect opportunity, he blinds the hunter by throwing dust in his eyes. He then increases his kill count, so that's 5 tribal hunters he's killed so far. It's 5, right? Wait, let me count. He killed the first one with a spear, then he sneak attacked the other one, he jumped on the third guy from a tree, then the one he just killed makes it 4. Who am I missing? Oh, I miscounted the third hunter as dead because he was almost puking blood. I'm not sure if he died or survived. Well, given how badly he lost to Wild, I believe the tribe killed him for being such an embarrassment to them. So, with 5 of their people dead, the tribe leader gets extremely furious. They decide that they won't leave Wild until he's dead, and the 6 remaining hunters start looking for him. They reach the place where Wild is resting and shoots arrows at him. Wild dodges the arrows and runs enough distance between him and the hunters that he quite conveniently has enough time to start a fire and create a barrier of fire to scare off the hunters. For the first time, Wild feels as if he has won and gets really happy. The hunters now have to take a long detour to get to Wild. After a long tiring day, Wild takes shelter under a tree and falls asleep. Next morning, we see that there's an argument between the hunters. Remember, there's no subtitles, but I still managed to understand everything. That's the power of body language. It seems one of the hunters wants to give up and return back, so the enraged leader kills the quitter with his spear. Now only 5 remain. The leader is so determined at finding Wild that he doesn't want his men to waste time drinking water. Meanwhile, Wild's condition has turned really bad due to a lack of food and water. He finds a snake and tries to make lunch out of it, which will give him enough energy to move forward. Back to the hunters. One of them gets bitten by a snake. His friend tries to suck the venom out, but the leader argues that they're just wasting time and orders them to leave him behind to die. So far, everything is going in Wild's favor, and he has also found drinking water, which he's extremely happy about. While the tribe leader starts being harsh on his friends, Wild reaches a village where he sees tribals dancing and celebrating. He hides there, and at night, when everyone is asleep, he steals their food and eats it. Next morning, we see Wild sleeping under a fallen tree near the same village. Just then, the sound of a bullet awakens him and he sees that someone has attacked the village. The attackers are slave traders who take the tribals captive and sell them in slave trades. The whole village is burning down and the villagers are getting captured one by one. Wild goes to another place where he finds a kid hiding from the slave traders. To save that kid, Wild diverts the slave traders' attention towards himself. He fights some of the bad guys and also manages to kill their leader. He then gets chased by the remaining slave traders, and we see that the 4 hunters are silently watching from afar. While getting chased down by the slave traders, Wild meets a dead end in a waterfall. To save his life, Wild jumps into the river and gets swept away by the river's strong current. Believing that Wild is dead, the slave traders leave, but Wild is still alive and traveling to get back to safety. After going some distance, he sees the white fort where his people are. Wild gets extremely happy and goes down on his knees, believing that he's safe now. But just then, he narrowly survives an arrow aimed at his back. He looks back to see the 4 hunters are catching up to him. Wild once again starts running and the hunters follow him. Before Wild can reach the fort and is saved, he falls to the ground, completely exhausted. One of the hunters is moving at a great pace to reach Wild and kill him with a spear, while the rest of the 3 are hiding behind the bushes. The guards near the fort have seen Wild, so they start firing. The hunter who wants to kill Wild reaches up to him and picks up his spear. But before he could kill him, he gets shot by the guards and dies. The 3 hunters behind the bushes have understood that Wild has now gone out of their reach. Wild then waves at the tribe leader, who also waves back, maybe as a sign of respect for his perseverance. The friends he killed on his way to find Wild must be so pissed. Anyway, Wild gets saved and the movie ends. So thank you so much for watching. This movie was released in 1965 and was nominated for the Best Original Screenplay in Oscars. Honestly, I totally enjoyed this movie. It was a nice slice of cinema history, and to that end, I hope you enjoyed the recap of it. If you did, then please like this video. Also subscribe to the channel to never miss out on future videos.